my channel. If you're new here, I'm Tasneem Abrahams. I'm the founder of the Private Practice Growth Club. And on this channel, we share tips, tools, and tutorials for health professionals starting and growing a private practice in South Africa. One of the playlists I have on this channel is the Talk to Taz series. And in the series, I address commonly asked questions that I often see come up in Facebook or when people direct message me, asking me questions around private practice or ethics or the rules. And where I don't know the answer, I try and find it from the correct sources and share it here for all of you to learn from. And one of the questions that I recently got in the Private Practice Growth Club private Facebook group was very interesting. It read, "Good day, colleagues. I'd like to know whether seeing the same client as a state employee and at your small private practice is allowed, especially if these private sessions are in between the long waiting periods of state facilities, for the benefit of the rehab process or for additional treatment unavailable at the state facility. Any guidance or literature will be appreciated." Now, we all know that waiting times at state facilities is really long, and when it comes to rehab, the time between sessions is really critical. In fact, often patients can regress in their rehab advancements if there is a gap in the treatment timeline. So one can understand why this question would be asked. But the question is it ethical for you yourself to provide that in-between intervention or rehab in your private capacity if you are employed by the state and seeing this patient in state? And my initial immediate knee-jerk gut reaction is to say, no, this is not allowed because there is a possibility of conflict of interest or potentially over-servicing. And I was correct in my assumption, but I didn't just answer that question out of my own knowledge. I asked the professional practice portfolio of the HPCSA to give me an official response to this question. I'm going to share a screen share what their official response was, and then dig a little deeper into the rules that they referenced in the ethics book so that you can see why this is a problem. And then afterwards I will give some ideas on how we can address this problem for the patient's benefit. Because at the end of the day, the solution must not be because it's benefiting you as a health professional. It must be in acting in the best interest of the patient. Okay, so as you can see that on this email, I'm just going to share the email. It says here that, "Dear Tasneem, though dual practice or RWAPs," so RWAP stands for Remuneration for Work Outside of the Public Service, which, by the way, and I do have a video on that, if you are working in state, you may not have a private practice on the side without first getting an RWAPs, which is a document which you are basically given permission by your employer or the district that you're working in for you to have a private practice outside of your employment in the state. And the reason I'm not going to go into the reasons for this because you can, if you want to know more about the RWAPs and how to apply for an RWAPs and the links to the forms, you can go and check out the video that I have linked in the description box or somewhere on the screen here above, and you can go and watch that video. So when you have an RWAPs and you now are permitted to practice in your private capacity outside of state hours, this is known as dual practice. And this is allowed provided that you have been approved, right? And practitioners must not refer to themselves, even if you have this RWAPs in place, practitioners must not refer to themselves or even consult with a patient in more than one capacity. This is considered as a dual relationship with potential for over-servicing. Health practitioners should always avoid potential conflicts of interests. See paragraph 3.1 and 3.5 of the attached guidelines for ease of reference. So what I'm going to do now is actually share the document that is being referenced here and read through those particular rules and see why it is actually not permitted. So the document that is listed is booklet 11, which is the guidelines on overservicing, perverse incentives, and related matters. And if we go down to point 3, which is listed here, and let's just hone in. So it's one document up. 3.1 is the overservicing rule. What does overservicing mean? Healthcare practitioners shall not provide a service or perform or direct certain procedures to be performed on a patient that are neither indicated nor scientific or have been shown to be ineffective, harmful, inappropriate through evidence-based review. And you may not refer a patient to another healthcare practitioner for a service or a procedure that is neither indicated nor scientific or has been shown to be ineffective, harmful, or inappropriate. So, of course, the question that was asked here, it doesn't relate to these two rules, because clearly the person is talking about the patient needing to continue rehab and it's not currently available and they are wanting to provide that service. So you need to then read this in relation to Rule 3.5, which talks about referrals. So self-referrals, it clearly says healthcare practitioners may only refer their clients or patients to any health establishment in which such healthcare practitioner or a close family member or business associate has a financial interest or a potential conflict of interest if such interest has been declared to and approved by the HPCSA and on condition that such interest is discussed and agreement reached with the patient to the referral for the patient's consent. So what this means is that if you are referring your patient to a colleague or like let's say a practice that you have a financial interest in, or another facility, or to a close family or friend who has a practice, if you have a personal vested or financial interest in the person you're referring to, you need to disclose that in that potential conflict of interest to your patient. Be open, transparent. Look, this is my uncle who is a whatever physiotherapist that I'm referring to you. It is my uncle, just so you know. Are you okay with that, or would you prefer me to refer you to someone else? Or I'm referring you to this rehab facility, which I'm a director or a shareholder of. So I do have a financial interest in this facility doing well, just so that you know. I'm happy to refer you to a different facility if you feel uncomfortable because you do need the service, and there are other places you can get this, but I'm disclosing that to you. And if the patient is fine with it, preferably you record that in your notes, then you are covered. But this question still doesn't necessarily ask that. It's asking what about referring to myself and my own practice? Well, your own practice is the thing you have financial interest in. So they also talk about in 3.5.2 and 3.5.3, firstly, healthcare practitioners shall not refer their clients or patients to any health establishment or to any other healthcare professionals if such referral will constitute overservicing. So that in that case, if you are referring them for rehab that they don't need, that would be overservicing. But if they definitely need this rehab, then the following point applies, that practitioners must not consult with one patient in more than one capacity. So it comes down here to, first of all, intention, that if your intention is ethical in that the person does need the service and the service that you are referring them for is essential in their care, it's evidence-based, it is in the best interest of the patient, then of course all those other and you've disclosed that you have a financial personal vested interest in who you're referring them to, then all those other reasons don't apply. But then the fallback is 3.5.3, that you must not consult with one patient in more than one capacity. And at the end of the day, it is just about protecting. So if you are in a position where you're working for state and you're seeing a patient, and then because of the protocols and whatever, this person now has to go into a waiting list or cannot receive further rehab from you when they need it, then you cannot refer to yourself. You then need to then find an alternate health professional or establishment that provides the same service you provide in your private practice and refer them rather to that person. You cannot refer to yourself, so that you still are seeing to the best interest of the patient and their clinical outcomes, but that there is no risk that you might have some, even if it's a subconscious bias or some chance that you might risk over-servicing this person and cross ethical boundaries. So I hope that if this is a question you've ever had, that answers your questions. And if you do ever have any kinds of questions regarding ethics or guidelines, the best is always just to reach out to the HPCSA themselves. You can reach out to them on professional practice at hpcsa.co.za. And if you ask your question there, one of the professional practice portfolio team will get back to you. They I must say, I've always been impressed with the speed with which they respond. I know a lot of people always have a lot of things to say about the HPCSA. I myself can complain about some of the inefficiencies, but when it comes to the professional practice portfolio, they're always on top of their game. They answer, they reference, and all of that. So if you have a question, do ask there. If you feel a bit shy to ask the question, or maybe you're worried you did something wrong and you don't want to ask, you are welcome to ask me on any of the platforms. So the Facebook group, if you go and search Private Practice Growth Club, you'll find the private Facebook group, which in that group you can obviously ask questions anonymously, which is how this question was asked. And then I can ask the question on your behalf, or you can reach out to me. All the links you will find in the description box below. And I will also link to the HPCSA website, where you will find the links to all the most recent ethics booklets, so that you can always make sure that you have the most updated ethics rules. If you find these videos helpful, don't forget to click the like button, to subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications of new videos. You can also go to my website and subscribe to my newsletter, my newsletter and my blog, where I share once a month an overview of the latest news related to the health industry in South Africa.